Hello friends, this is Deepak with 10x CRM. So in today's video, I want to talk to you about email delivery. So this is a very common questions that people always ask. And it usually goes something like this. Why are my emails going into spam box? That's the most common one. Number two is, why are my emails not getting delivered at all? That's a second common question. And the third one is not as bothering, but it is still bothers some people, is why are my emails going into promotional or update box in Gmail and some of the other vendors out there. So I'm going to try to address some of these questions to make life a little bit easier for you guys, especially if you're doing marketing on your own. So if your emails are actually not getting delivered, so if you're using a third-party vendor who is in charge of getting your emails delivered and they're still not getting delivered, or if you have your own email server and your emails are not getting delivered, so I would request you to do one thing, and that is check if your emails are actually blacklisted. So one of the two things could have happened if your emails are literally not getting delivered. Either they could have been blacklisted, like as your email address, or your domain name could have been blacklisted. So what I would recommend you is check your reputation. So there are a lot of good resources online, but the one I will show you real quick, that's the easiest one. So it's called mxtoolbox.com. So if you just go to mxtoolbox.com, so you can just go there and just go ahead and type in your domain. For example, if I just type in 10x CRM domain and do blacklist check, it will come back and it will do a checking on this domain and to see if anybody is actually blocking that domain. And as you can see, they check about 101 blacklisted directories that are online available right now, and most of them are, pretty much none of them are actually blacklisting that domain. But that's the first step I would recommend you do that. So if you guys are doing any kind of email marketing, go ahead and head over to mxtoolbox.com and enter in your domain and click on blacklist check. So this will tell you if anybody has blacklisted you. If they have, no matter what you do, you are not going to get that email delivered. So that's a big problem. Now, does that mean that nobody will get your email? No, like some people will get it. It depends upon which email provider that recipient has and which directory do they use to check for the blacklisted domains and email addresses. So that's what I would strongly recommend you do, is head over there and see. Now, if more than likely, most of you guys are good to go, but a couple of you guys might find yourself in a situation where one or two people might have blocked you. If that is the case, then you need to submit a request to them to unblock you. They're going to ask you, what kind of things have you done to make sure that you don't spam people going any further. Basically, they want to make sure that you would be using the best practices in future. So check that if you haven't, because that would be very helpful. So let's talk about some of the other things that stops your emails from getting delivered. So let's take a look at that stuff. So there are a lot of things that can happen. So for example, the most common one, this is a very interesting one. I think a lot of people don't know this. So if you have used your Google, many of you guys have your Gmail account, and many of us do send an email to a Gmail account, right? Our recipients, our customers, our clients, our friends, many of them actually have a Gmail account. So if you send out an email to a Gmail account and your client doesn't like it, they have an option to go and file a spam complaint. So you would think the way spam complaint works is that Google will probably let the provider know that, hey, this customer doesn't want to receive any emails from you, so please do not send him any emails, right? That's what you would think. But that's actually not the case. What Google does is, instead of sending that information, it wants to protect your privacy, so it doesn't let the recipient know at all which email address is doing. It just lets the vendor know, whoever is managing that email sending service for you, in a very anonymous fashion, then, hey, I am receiving the spam control. But it doesn't tell you who is complaining, right? So if you do that quite often, then you will realize that many of these people will basically start to file complaints with Google, and your service provider will say, okay, looks like Google doesn't like our email. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to either slow down sending of emails to this particular provider, or I will block it altogether. So you have to be very, very careful as to who you send the email to. Second one, which is obviously, if somebody unsubscribes and you're still sending an email to them, that's against the CAN-SPAM law. I'm not going to talk much about that right now because I just want to give you some tips of what you can do not to get on that list. But that's another common reason if you continue to send to blacklisted. So I will recommend that you obviously double opt in. So if you're collecting leads online, you send them an email, hey, I received your inquiry. If you still want to receive information from me, click here, double verify that, and only then you start doing marketing to them. Otherwise, maybe you don't want to do marketing with them. And always give options to unsubscribe. So that way, now problem with unsubscribe is if you do include them in all your emails, more than likely, most email providers will think you are sending them a marketing email, and they will probably end up in a promotional tab or an update tab instead of ending up in your inbox. So you have to be very careful with this. As to how you use it. So I recommend people a certain email should include unsubscribe, like especially the first couple of them. And you know, obviously, if they don't unsubscribe, then maybe you can go ahead and start sending them regular emails. Bounces. So that's a simple one. If you send out mass emails and a lot of emails come back as a bounce, that tells the service provider that you are basically phishing. That means you have maybe an old list that you acquired from somebody and whatnot, and you don't know who you sending an email to. A lot of block complaints. So these days, pretty much every provider support blocking an email. So if a lot of people start blocking your content, your emails, then obviously you will end up on that list as well. And last but not the least is invalid email addresses. So don't just make them up. I see sometimes, especially in B2B industry, not so much in B2C, is people will make up, let's say if somebody wants to send an email to 10xCRM, they will say, I'll send an email to deepak.sharma@10xcrm.com. Or they will say, I'll send an email at d.sharma@10xcrm.com and so forth. That's more like phishing again, right? So that's another reason why your emails can get blocked. All right, so these are the 5 things that matter when it comes down to sending your email. These will pretty much determine what will happen to your email. So the moment you press the send button, this is what all the technology in the world is going to do to determine what should they do with your mail message. So on top of the list is domain reputation. What does that mean? That means, let's say if you have a domain, 10xcrm.com, if that's your domain, and I start sending out emails to thousands of people, and many of these people mark me as a spam, they block me, my emails are not getting delivered because I'm sending them to the wrong email address. Basically, all the reasons that I gave you earlier. If I start doing those kind of things, my domain reputation will start to decrease, right? So that is a problem. So if your domain reputation is pretty bad, so if you, for example, if you go to the blacklist website I showed you, it will tell you how your domain reputation might be, because if more people are blocking you, that means it's pretty bad, right? So obviously you don't want anybody blocking you, but that still doesn't make it very good because there's no real math to it. But if a lot of your messages are not getting delivered or they're getting to spam boxes, chances are your domain reputation is pretty bad. That means you need to work on best practices to ensure that your domain reputation goes up. So let's take a simple example. How would it work? So let's just say if I am a new domain, so I just registered 10xcrm.com, I send out an email to 1,000 people, right? So 1,000 email goes out, all of them are legit email addresses. So if you think about it, the service provider, let's say if all of them are Gmail. Well, what Gmail is going to do is it's going to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and deliver a certain percentage of those mail in an inbox. And let's see how many people actually do something with it. And if people are, opening it and marking their spam, I'm going to start sending everything from this domain slowly into spam box. So the service providers actually learn the behavior of people who are recipient of your message. So it's very, very important that they actually do engage with you. So that brings up a second important point, which is quality of content. So quality of content, that could be another video on its own, and I'll be happy to do that. So if you guys have a question, please feel free to send me. There are many tools that actually help you do it. But let's talk about some of the simple things. For example, is the subject line equals to what's the content of the email? So a lot of time people send fake subject line and the content is something else. It's like bait and switch kind of situation. If that happens, then people might open your email, but then they will immediately delete it, or they will mark it as spam, or they will block it, or they will unsubscribe it. Guess what? You're thinking, hey, no harm done. At least people open up the email. No. big harm done, because when that happens, the recipient service provider is learning what to do with your next email. So very important. I'll give you another small tidbit. Let's just say if you use a lot of capital letters, you use a lot of links in your emails, you use a lot of images in your emails. All of those things can matter. It just depends how you're structured. Now, there's always an exception to all of this rule. Let's say you do everything wrong in the email, but you have a high engagement. People are opening your emails. People are not marking it as spam. In that case, you're good to go. As long as your customer is happy, service providers don't care. But all of those other rules do matter when your recipients are not happy with that stuff. Okay, the third one, sending IP reputation. So what the heck does that mean? So what happens is, chances are your email service provider, for example, here at 10x, we pretty much let you use whatever email provider you have. You can use SendGrid if you like. That's the majority that people use that. You can use your Gmail. You can use your any other domain providers, email services that you have. You can use Outlook. Whatever your favorite provider is, that's fine, right? Now, if you're sending out an email, that email is going out from a server known as email server. And that email server has a unique name, which in IP world we called it an IP address. Sorry if I offend some of you guys who know what IP address is, but it's basically just a name of that server in simple terms. So what happens is the easiest way for services to learn is if more people are filing complaints, because sometimes what you can happen is you have one server, but you might have, let's say, 20 domains on it. You might have mail.10xcrm.com, email.10xcrm.com, marketing.10xcrm.com, because I'm trying to get away with this domain reputation, right? So I send a lot of junk emails from 10xcrm.com, so I'll add another domain, mail.10xcrm. So I'm going to start sending out mails from that. So you do that, and the email service providers get really smart. They say, I see what you're doing. You're trying to just manipulate your domain name. So I'm going to block your IP address. That means it doesn't matter which domain you have, as long as it's on that IP address, I'm going to block it completely altogether. Nobody's going to receive your email. So you say, okay, that's fair. If somebody's doing bad things, that's fair to do. But sometimes it's not something that you're doing bad. Sometimes what happens is, let's say if you have a free plan on SendGrid, or you have a cheap plan, like $10 plan on SendGrid. So those plans have what we call shared IP addresses. So if you have 10 people on that account, or 20 people, I don't know how many people they have on it, but obviously significant number. And any one of those people abuses the system and gets that IP address blocked, guess what? Every single user who is on that plan will probably get a ding for that. So best thing to do is whenever you have an email server, especially if you're really serious about your marketing and you're doing all the right things, you are sending the right content, you are following all the great, right principles of email marketing, you're doing all that kind of good stuff. If you're doing all of that, then it is a good idea to get your own IP address. So go with a higher plan. I think it's like 60 or 70 bucks or whatnot, and get your own IP address, because that way you're responsible for your actions, nobody else. Frequency and user engagement. What does that mean? So this also depends, right? So if you're sending out a mail every single day and nobody cares, like for example, let's say a coupon in your local market, then that is going to hurt you. Worse is, let's say if you send somebody once a month and a lot of people do engage, then that would not hurt you, because even though it's the same content, but it's really all comes down to, at the end of the day, how your user, how your recipients are engaging with your content. So very, very important. I keep bringing this up. It's really, at the end of the day, it really comes down to engagement. So last one, I kept this last because it's a little bit more technical in nature, but a lot of people do miss it. I see it many times when I'm consulting with clients. Whenever you have a domain name, so let's say you got a domain 10xcrm.com and you use some other email provider to send your emails. Let's just say it was Constant Contact, right? So if they're going to do that, what you want to do is you want to whitelist your domain to send the emails from their email servers. And you do that by basically adding a couple of records under your domain. So I don't want to make it a technical video. This is more for somebody who manages your website, who takes care of your emails. But in simple terms, what they do is they go into wherever you bought the domain from, and you add something called text record. And in that text record, you have specific information for SPF and DKIM, and you enter those, and it tells that, hey, this is the domain, but the email is coming from a different server, and I have verified that those two are legit. and that will make sure that most of your emails get delivered. If those two don't match, then many times I see people do at least one of them, like either SPF or DKIM, but you really need to do both, because otherwise many people will drop that email. So hopefully this kind of gives you a great overview as to why your emails might get blacklisted or end up in spam box, or a lot of people are just not responding to them. And there are many other elements to email marketing. Should they be HTML? Should be their text? How should the content look like and all that? And I'll be happy to do other videos on that. But for this video, I just wanted to keep the matter very, very small and just kind of give you a brief overview of what kind of things actually get the emails blocked. So hopefully you can follow some best practices. If you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to consult with you, give you some advice as to what you can do and how you can avoid getting in our trash can, basically. All right, have a wonderful day, guys. Thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it. If you don't mind, please share this video as well as like it. It gives us some motivation to create some more quality content that can actually help you. So thank you so much.